Hi everybody. So I recently met a new up-and-coming YouTuber named Suris the Skeptic, who makes very interesting and entertaining videos, but he's new and has barely over 100 subscribers. For this week's video, I'm joining him in responding to a sermon on end times prophecy, a topic that I, growing up in a small Pentecostal denomination, was all too familiar with. This will be posted here as well as on his channel, so you can get a feel for what he does and go subscribe. Now usually I find that when someone shouts out another channel, just over 1% of their subs will go subscribe to the other channel. Meaning that in this case, we would expect to see Suris' channel go up by about 20 subscribers. But let's see if we can do better than that, shall we? I will be watching, and I would like to see his subs at least double, because he's way better than a 100 sub channel. So anyway, let's get on with the video. Take it away, Suris.
Hey everyone! So, for a little help in continuing to respond to this prophecy report video, I felt the need to bring in an actual prophet to help me debunk this guy.
Hey Suris, thanks for having me. And to you in the audience, my name's Prophet of Zod. Now full disclosure, I'm not an actual prophet. My title's just kind of a fun, playful one that doesn't really mean anything. Kind of like King Crocoduck, Emperor Atheist, or Dr. Kent Hovind. So please don't expect me to go predicting the future.
With that out of the way, let's get in. Wait a minute. What channel are we on?
Technically we're on both channels.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Well, actually it makes perfect sense according to quantum physics. Because doesn't it say something about being in two places at once, or... I don't know, I saw something like that on TV or something.
Oh. Well, I guess I'll have to look into that. I'm going to try not to think about it. Let's just get into the video.
So you say, why does it appear there? Because I think it's the first set. Then there'll be another set. Then there'll be another set. All right? So now, take the distance from the woman in the sky. Now, the woman in the sky, she's got all these signs, plus she's to give birth. Remember that? In Revelation 12, she's supposed to give birth. Well, if you're supposed to give birth around that date, then something significant should happen 9 months before.
Ooh, I know what happened.
It's called conception.
Well, that's a boring way of saying it.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to give you the date. Count 9 months from the 23rd of September, and let's just see if anything happens. Put it on your calendar. All right? Around that time, we should see a conception, which is the 23rd of December, 2016. I have a friend who does YouTube. You can go to his channel called The Cutting Edge too, and he puts the date even earlier, and he says the conception is 20th of November, and that's based on him drawing lines on the constellation.
I also have a friend who does YouTube. His name is Suris, and he doesn't draw lines on constellations because he's not a f***ing idiot. If you're watching the mirrored version of this, you should go look at his channel. If you're watching the original version of this, then you're already here, so I guess never mind.
I don't know if we can draw lines in the sky like that, but I'm just going to do it very simple. 9 months. 9 months. 23rd of December. Hey guys, are you planning to be here for 50 years?
Totally. I plan on being here for at least 50 years, assuming I don't die before then. But I think the fact that both you and your friend came up with different dates for this prophecy is very telling, and it gives me that much more confidence that I'll be around for those 50 years. You know, assuming the Muslims don't kill me first.
Are you living like you got another 30 years to go? I never predicted when the rapture is going to happen. I'm not a date setter. I'm showing you patterns and fulfillments, a very likely fulfillment of Revelation 12.
Ignoring the dates you already supposed, I can't help but point out the reason that you're backpedaling a bit and not calling yourself a date setter is because you know deep down that nothing's going to happen. And you're trying to position yourself so that the people you're trying to convince won't just shoot you down for being a false prophet once you inevitably fail.
Let's do another one. If you do 8 months from the Feast of Trumpets, which is possibly can start on the 20th of September, 8 months, come on, count it. Where does it go to? 8 for the number of a new beginning? Very uncanny, a very interesting date. All of you should know. 8 months earlier from that date, the new president takes office, 20th of January, 2017. There are just layers upon layers upon layers.
The fundamental issue I see here is that there are layers upon layers upon layers, not of prophetic realities, but of countless data points for this guy to connect. If he hadn't used the inauguration of a new president, he could have used anything. The election of the same president, the death of somebody famous, a school shooting, a natural disaster. Whichever event he picked from whatever date would have wowed his audience, which is really as complicit as he is in letting this garbage pass. But Suris has a pretty darn good grip on this, so I'll stop here.
Okay, but let's not just look at pictures, okay? I want you to go to the Word with me. Now I'll show you what Jacko Prinsloo, he wrote this in a book called God's Roadmap to the End. And again, he has this YouTube channel. I believe it's called The Cutting Edge 2. He calculated this, so I'm just going to say it to you, okay? So here's the sign of the woman in the sky. Many of us prophecy teachers are all in agreement right now that this is the only thing going on in the sky for 6,000 years that would even fulfill, that could fulfill Revelation 12.
Just look at the painful way he twisted the structure of this sentence to make his claim sound more impressive than it really is. Many of us prophecy teachers are all in agreement right now. Basically, he's hoping his audience will get the impression of a broad or even universal consensus from the word all, while failing to catch that he nullified it with the unquantifiable word many. This is as useless as the statement, many birds are all ducks. And I think on some level, he had to have purposefully constructed this sentence to give his audience a false impression. Basically, everybody within a group he selected agrees that only one arrangement of the stars can be construed to have the same symbolism of a weird extended metaphor. Big deal.
Jupiter, which is the largest planet in our solar system, is called the king planet. It is the symbol of the king himself. Jupiter enters into the abdomen or the womb of Virgo.
This conversation just got way too adult for the kids out there. Whatever you do, do not look up Jupiter x Virgo on Rule 34. The internet is a scary place.
Celestially speaking, by diagram we're speaking, okay, because there are no lines in the sky. If we drew these lines, Jupiter enters the womb on 20th of November 2016.
But I thought you're not a date setter.
No, he's more of a, the date is at some vague point right around the corner.
Maybe that's conception. Exits from Virgo, okay, so that means if you could draw a line in the sky, leaves the womb on the 9th of September 2017. Could be the birth, okay, could be the rapture of the church, for instance, according to Jacko Prinsloo's model, okay? And the fulfillment of Revelation 12 would occur between the 23rd to the 24th of September 2017. Oh, we got another thing. It's just layer upon layer. On that date, there was a comet that will conjoin with the moon. I don't know if we can ever get more of a sign since Adam and Eve.
We've never had more of a sign since your fictional story happened? Well, I'm sure that comet must have a ton of meaning. I can't wait to see what happens on those specific dates. Oh dear. We must be deep into the end times by now.
All right? What is this comment about? Well, I was thinking, should I share this? And it was in the news today. Can you imagine? I'm looking at this comment, and it's in the news today, like when you got up this morning. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to share about this comment. Listen to how weird this comment is. It happens to be a comet that the European Space Agency decided to send a space probe to 12 years ago. I'm not making this up.
Why does that matter? I mean, I believe you. I'll give you that they sent a probe to the comet without doing any research whatsoever on that. So now that I've granted you that, what? Why should I, you, or anyone else care? A space station sent a probe to a comet. Exciting. I can't wait to see what type of rock we find on that rock.
On the 2nd of March 2004, Europe launched the Rosetta space probe to rendezvous with Comet 67. Hey, when have we seen 67 before? 1967? Prophetic?
I hate to interject again, but why do these arbitrary numbers that we assigned to a ball of rock and ice mean anything at all? You know what? I'm just going to let Zod lay into you for a bit and let a prophet take down a prophet. It's poetic.
Jerusalem was captured, 50th anniversary. It is called a Jupiter family comet. I looked that up. It's a Jupiter family comet. Doesn't mean that it's related to Jupiter. It's just by their, astronomical definition.
And this is really just part of the problem, isn't it? So much of this material is based not even on astronomical bodies themselves, but on names given to them by people steeped in Western mythologies. Does it take much imagination to see how circular it is for geniuses like this guy, also familiar with Western mythologies, to go back and find symbolism in these same names?
It is a Jupiter family comet. Again, Jupiter representing the king. It's traveling at 38 kilometers per second, and we managed to rendezvous with it at 38 kilometers per second. That's pretty cool. On the 10th of September 2014, Rosetta entered the comet's orbit. On the 12th of November, Rosetta's lander, Philae, which means friend, like Philadelphia, touched down. We sent a probe that touched down on this comet.
Yes, it's amazing what society managed to do when it drops superstitious bullshit like this in favor of science.
But, Zod, unless we believe in a God who commits genocide on all human life with a flood, how could we possibly hope to accomplish anything of worth at all?
And yesterday, the 30th of September 2016, Rosetta crash landed on the comet, ending its 12-year mission. And I'm preaching about it today. On the 23rd of September next year, this comet that has been singled out by the European Space Agency, that has a peculiar name that rhymes with 1967, will be in conjunction with the moon, passing by the foot of Virgo 50 years. That's one jubilee. 50 years since 1967. What does it mean? I don't know.
Holy crap, you admit it. You actually admit it. Zod, he's learning.
Yeah, I'm not so certain I share your confidence on this specific point.
But this is my friend Lou Vega. He put this up on his website, postscripts.org. And I thought, it's in the news. It's another celestial sign. You couldn't get more signs. As long as you live, I don't think there'll be a bigger sign than what's coming up.
Okay, I would love to hear just one prophecy expert say that the signs of our times are relatively boring, that God probably won't come for hundreds of years, and that the next cool omens probably won't appear until the time of our great-great-great-grandchildren. Because isn't that what would usually happen if all these signs and prophecies were real? But instead we have exactly what we would expect if people were just taking liberties with random data. And that's every prophetic speaker at every time in history saying that the current signs are the most spectacular ever and that the most amazing acts of God are just right around the corner.
So, Revelation 12, let's read it, okay? I'll read it for you. We've got a few scriptures to show you because what we want to do now is to harmonize the scriptures.
This idea of harmonizing different parts of Scripture has always confused me. I graded a lot of papers when I was a teacher, and even the laziest, least proficient students were up to the basic task of conveying a clear thought in writing. I would never let a student slap a string of disjointed narratives on my desk and tell me it was my responsibility to figure out what he or she meant. So why do Christians have such low expectations of the perfect creator of the universe?
What does all this mean? Now a great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain. Remember that? In labor and in pain. So what we want to do is to find out any other woman crying in labor and in pain in the Bible.
So you mean like all the women who ever had babies?
To give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his head. This is the part we have ignored. We haven't talked about what is the dragon. We've talked about the virgin. We'll talk about the child. We haven't talked much about the dragon. What does he do? His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. Hey, where have I heard that before? How about the rest of Revelation? If you studied my 4 hours of the 22 future events of Revelation,
Ooh, no thanks.
we know there's going to be meteor shower at the end of the 6th seal, and there's going to be meteor impact in the trumpet judgments, and there's going to be more meteor impact in the bowl judgments. Where are all these meteors coming from? Revelation 12 says, when all these signs are happening, something will pass by and draw a third of the stars and throw them down to the earth. Well, these are not stars like the sun and, big stars like that. If you throw the sun onto the earth would vanish because the sun is much larger. These stars falling to the earth can only be meteorites. Because we call meteorites falling stars.
Okay, so maybe God used the wrong word for meteorites. Or maybe, I don't know, the people who wrote the Bible just don't know dick about astronomy.
Can you see Revelation starting to make sense now?
Nope. Still sounds like nonsense.
So something comes that we haven't talked about, draws all of these debris into the earth's atmosphere and starts pelting the earth. Totally in line with what the 22 predicted events of Revelation are. Revelation continues. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Where have I heard the word caught up before?
If only a god could take you away from here, then maybe we wouldn't be sitting here listening to your bullcrap. You're just adding arbitrary meaning on a ton of events and objects, hoping someone believes you.
Rapture. So now we have a sign in the sky. We have something that's going to disturb some debris, some meteorites or asteroids that will help fulfill the rest of Revelation. And around that time, there's somebody that gets caught up. So the question is, who?
Oh, can it please be you?
Who gets caught up? Many theologians debate about this. I want to try to clarify this right now. Then the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared to God that they should feed her there 1,260 days. There is both an earthly meaning and a heavenly meaning for these scriptures, right? Often dual application. We're going to first start with the heavenly meaning since we've been talking about signs in the sky, celestial signs. The woman is a collective entity referring to Israel. Is that correct?
Considering Israel is portrayed as a woman who God will violate in the Bible, sure, I'll give you that one. Why not?
Most people believe, correct? Theologians believe the woman represents Israel. Israel is a body of people represented by one symbol, the woman. The dragon is a collective entity. Who is it that will go after the woman? Talking on the earth right now, actually, talking about the earth. The Jews will flee from the Antichrist's armies. The beast system, the new world order that will be anti-Semitic, that will go against the Jews, they will come collectively, chase the Jews, and they'll find a safe place in Jordan.
Wouldn't it be terribly awkward if these anti-Semitics just, I don't know, read the Bible to figure out where they were fleeing? I mean, that would be totally inconvenient, wouldn't it? I mean, sorry for pointing out that meta plot hole in your story, but please, continue.
In Petra, in the wilderness. Correct? So the woman is collective. The dragon is collective. Now the question is, who's the child? And many people have taught, and I heard my wonderful pastor 20 years ago, had a great pastor who taught end times to us, lived in New York, taught end times to us, but he taught in the light that he knew.
Much like you're doing now. And the next false prophet will say of you, and then his successor will say of him, and, you'll all call each other respectable, but outdated. And the best part is, none of you will ever see the irony in that.
Great point, Suris. All we have is a never-ending string of people creating their own interpretations of purposefully vague old riddles, all of them somehow confident that they're the right ones.
I don't call him a false prophet because he didn't get everything right. I believe that everyone is progressing in their knowledge. And as we get closer to the end time, we stand on the shoulders of those who've gone before us. And this is what I really dislike about these keyboard warriors on YouTube and on social media. Because they disrespect those who have revelation, they disrespect anyone who might have gotten anything wrong, and they apply this false label and this false standard of perfectionism on them.
So the issue is that people want their predictions to be accurate? The horror!
I can say that my old pastor did not get everything about end times right. He did not know what this was. He said that the child must be Jesus. But if you harmonize the scriptures and you apply strict Bible interpretation, you've got one collective entity, another collective entity. How could the third thing be an individual? Not only that, the child should be a collective entity, which is the church, and it says the child is caught up. In other words, the church is raptured. How could it be Jesus that was caught up? Because Jesus was never caught up to be protected from the devil pursuing him. Jesus never ran away from the devil. Jesus defeated the devil. And in victory, he ascended to heaven. It's a completely different picture from this picture where Satan spews after the woman, and the child that was given birth from the woman, who? The church, came from the Jewish religion. All of the early Christians were Jewish people. All the apostles, all the writers of the New Testament were Jewish. The Jews gave birth to the church. But when the devil comes in the time of wrath, of tribulation, the church was caught up.
The church was, something about using past tense for your future prediction seems, I don't know, just wrong?
So this scripture seems to peg the Revelation 12 sign with the rapture of the church. Am I saying it has to be next Feast of Trumpets? Of course not. I'm not a date setter. But I'm saying it would behoove the church now to wake up. If we are called the 10 virgins who are asleep, I am sounding the trumpet. Church, wake up. The bridegroom is coming.
Well, based on that exact parable, all the signs this guy's digging into are useless. Because the whole point of the story of the virgins was that they were always supposed to stay awake. So if Christians are always supposed to be ready, why are you bothering? Unless, of course, the whole point is to wow your audience with your ability to articulate complex nonsense about cryptic old metaphors.
If it takes 3.5 years for him to come, if it takes another 7 years, I'm telling you, it's time to live like he's coming very soon. But very likely we have a fulfillment of Revelation 12 next year. The wilderness is Petra, Jordan, lots of other scriptures to harmonize with that. I can't do it right now. We've got lots of other end-time teachings that cover that. Okay, now let's harmonize it with some scriptures.
Harmonize it. Because if you don't believe the bullshit he's fed you now, some more bullshit will help it go down. Drink up.
Can we do that? I've saved this for a long time. Let's do it, okay? Genesis chapter 3. Where do we find a woman who was in travail, in labor pain? Go all the way back to the beginning. Genesis chapter 3. I will put enmity between you, the serpent, and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. Who's her seed? The Messiah. Who's your seed, the serpent's seed? The Antichrist, who's also called in Revelation the dragon. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel.
Can I please point out that Genesis and Revelation were written so many thousands of years apart that there's no way the author of Genesis could have meant that the serpent was actually the devil? Seriously, in all of Genesis, not once is the serpent called the devil. That comparison only gets drawn thousands of years later in the book of Revelation. In Genesis, the serpent being talked about, for all intents and purposes, is essentially just a magic-talking snake, not the devil. Therefore, the snake's seed wouldn't be able to make the human Antichrist no matter how far down the line you go. Unless this is some super convoluted form of evolution that you're trying to propose now. Oh wait, we call that creationism.
I'd add that regardless of whatever Revelation says, Genesis was clearly talking about a serpent, and God clearly reacted by punishing its species, or kind or whatever. So unless God is the kind of idiot who punishes animals for being possessed by the devil, and unless Genesis describes the devil's role so vaguely as to give a purposefully false account, this is obviously a case of early Christians trying to make sense of a Genesis story that even they recognized was stupid.
Interesting. If these are signs in the sky, we've got a lot of description about what's going to happen up above our head. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. So let's look at the heavenly meaning now of Revelation 12. The woman, the only woman in the sky is the constellation Virgo. The woman's seed is the king planet Jupiter, the child that enters her womb and exits. And by the way, it never happens before. Jupiter stays in the womb for over 10 months. That's like the longest gestation period allowed.
You know, like Prophet of Zod said before, you're only able to spin this story because of the arbitrary terms we humans attach to these planets and stars in the first place. Ultimately, all of this terminology is meaningless. You keep clinging on to it, though, so you can spin this prophetic narrative.
Jupiter would normally just pass right through. But next year, when Jupiter enters, from November this year, Jupiter will go round and round and round and round like a little baby and will not exit the womb of Virgo until this sign is fulfilled. Strange. Strange things. Look up, Jesus said. When all these things happen, he said, look up. Wonder why he said that.
Probably because his character was based on people just like you. Peddlers of vague apocalyptic nonsense who kept warning everybody that the end was near, even in their time.
I couldn't agree more. Alright guys, we've got one more part of this video to respond to, but we're running out of time here. So for now, the usual links will be in the description below. If you haven't yet, please go subscribe to Prophet of Zod, if you're watching this on my channel. If you're watching it on his channel, hi? Alright, this is getting awkward now, I'm gonna go bye.